Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a tier list with all the mythic and sort of mythic bosses. They could be mini or big bosses from Chapter 2, Season 2, all the way to Chapter 6, Season 1. And we're going to be starting with the most recent and going backwards. So we're going to be starting with Chapter 6 and going back. And the first one we're going to cover on is Godzilla. Alright, we're going to be starting with covering Godzilla as he spawns randomly throughout the map later in the game, maybe after a third zone, which I thought was a pretty interesting concept. Now, Godzilla is a bit of a struggle as only one person can become Godzilla, but the issue is you can't really get the medallion after you become Godzilla, as the person with the most damage gets the medallion. But Godzilla's abilities are his roar ability, his heat ray ability, and his heat ray melts structures, and his roar just sends markers on everybody in the area, and it's so OP. Now, my biggest thing on him is his time didn't last super long. Like, whether you're taking damage or not, you didn't have very much time as Godzilla, and it was kind of a knock to have him. So that's kind of going to make me dock some points. I'm going to say he's a C tier. It was fun to use him, like to become Godzilla, but like there's really no perks with it. Like you can't really win the game with it. You can't get it at the end of the game, and you don't get the medallion either way. So it's just kind of like sort of a waste of time because you can't get very many kills with it either. So it's kind of useless, kind of not. Alright, next up we're going to be talking about Night Rose and Shogun X. Now, Night Rose you actually kill in a special way. It's by shooting a giant boss's eyes along with shooting her. And when you eliminate her, you get her Void Oni Mask Mythic and her Night Rose Medallion along with her Precision SMG, which has a very high accurate fire rate and I think is a very solid weapon. Now, when you talk about Shogun has two different type of variants. He has a roaming one, which appears at different locations throughout the map, and then he has one that spawns on the island, which Shogun island form has a lot of HP and is really, really hard to kill. When you eliminate Shogun, though, there's an issue with it that Shogun's a little bit too OP with this Fire Oni mask and his Mythic Typhoon Blade and his medallion, which makes you turn invisible. People need to realize how OP the Fire Oni mask actually is, especially in zero build. Like, that thing is just so broken. Which, my main thing on the boss, though, he has too much HP. Like, that's why I'm putting him at D tier, because I like his weapons and everything, but he is just way too hard to kill, and you just always get third party when you are trying to go after him. Now, when I'm talking about Night Rose is a pretty solid, it's a pretty solid boss. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna give her B tier for now. It's because I love all of her loot. I love her medallion. I love her SMG, and I love her Void Oni mask. I think it's all pretty solid to be part of the game. I just like it overall. Now, I'm not actually going to spend that much time on Chapter 2 remix, even though I love Chapter 3 remix, because these are just the same as previous creations or previous bosses, just a little bit different, but I can just go through and talk a little bit about them. So starting with Tina, she spawns at the rig again, but she's a little bit different because TNTTina is a little bit different. They did buff her Boombo in this version, and it's kind of the same thing with the key card, but they did buff her Boombo, so she's not totally useless like she used to be, but still, I'm gonna say a D tier. Still overall pretty bad loot that she drops. Also, it's kind of hard to find her when she spawns. Alright, next up, Meowdas. Meowdas was the same thing as Meowscles, basically just a combination of Midas and Meowdas. Midas and Meowscles. He also drops the Pew Pew rifle, and he drops a key card, which is pretty solid. And I love the Pew Pew rifle. It is so good and so powerful. And I love the way Meowdas looks, like the way he like turns gold a little bit. Looks really cool. I really like this. I really like this boss. I think it's an A tier because I really liked everything about Meowdas. Honestly, I thought he was one of the best bosses of Chapter 2 Remix. Now, I'm only doing this because I thought this was so funny, and some people might agree with me. S tier. Now, the reason why I say that is he was so funny to use Eminem's minigun. It was so funny because with him being at Spaghetti Grotto, his minigun was constantly blasting rap music when you had it, unless you turned it off, which you're allowed to turn it off, as he also drops his key card. But his using that minigun was so funny when you're constantly just you're just constantly using rap music. I think it's pretty funny overall to have. Now, Snoop Dogg was pretty cool overall, but he was just kind of basically a replacement to Midas, and I don't think I can put Snoop Dogg very high on here because I love Midas too much. I'm gonna say solid C tier for Snoop Dogg because he was kind of annoying with being an NPC once you hired him. Lastly, we got Ice Spice, and I didn't really like her. Her Ice Grappler was useful for getting away, but wasn't really useful for actual rotation and mobility. Because you would just slide when you're building or something, you just slide down ramps and stuff. It was kind of hard to use. It got you killed a lot. It kind of was hard to control. So because of that, I'm actually going to give it a C tier because I thought the grappler was actually I don't really like the ice grappler. I thought the ice grappler was really bad. You just slide around too much, and it's really hard to control. For becoming Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom has a lot of abilities, more abilities than basically any boss or any character ever put into Fortnite. As he has Siphon, first of all, that gives you 500 health and shield when you do damage and you get an elimination. He has the Arcane Barrage, which basically launches all the multiple tiny green balls at people and destroys a lot of structures. He has the Mystical Gigabomb, which is the X button. It shoots a gigantic circle of just gigantic circle beam at people. It just destroys the entire area. He has a Scorch Beam, which is just a laser beam that just shoots so. This beam just shoots so far and so powerful to use. His last ability is his dive kick, where if you jump really high in the air, you can dive down and land on people and do a ton of splash damage. It's so powerful. Along with that, he has infinite sprint, which that is just way too OP to have. Now, being Doctor Doom was so fun overall. I'm gonna be honest. I just think it was such a fun thing to be Doctor Doom. It's hard not to put him pretty high up because I'm gonna be honest, being Doctor Doom was so fun. Now, if he wasn't so OP, I would put him at S tier, but I just can't. So I'm gonna put him at high A tier because becoming Doctor Doom was such an overpowered but fun thing to do. Because basically, if you became Doctor Doom, you win. I never lost a single game as Doctor Doom. I probably became Doctor Doom 30 times. Ultima Carver. And Ultima Carver spawns at Brawler's Patch in replacement of Brawler's Battleground. And he drops a wood stake shotgun and a pumpkin launcher when you eliminate him. But this is something people didn't actually know about. Not a lot of people went here. It was pretty fun to go here, but most people don't really like the wood stake. Like, I don't really like the wood stake shotgun. I think it's pretty bad. But This is the first part of the first thing that was part of the special Christmas event, special Halloween ability. All right, next up we have Billy, and Billy spawns in Freaky Fields and is replacement for Reckless Railways, which this was the special POI that was added. And you challenge him by walking up to this TV, actually, and spawning him in, and to challenge him, which I thought was kind of unique. And upon defeating him, you would get 3 Boom Billies and a Sovereign Shotgun. Now, where do I think these two rank? For me, it's kind of tough because I'm going to be honest, the wood stake, I'm going to be honest, this is a useless one because the wood stake is so bad. The pumpkin launcher is good, but his main weapon that he drops is just so bad. I just can't get behind using it because I don't know a lot of people that actually liked using the wood stake or going to fight the Ultima Carver in general. Now Billy was just fun because the skin was pretty cool, but I'm gonna give Billy D tier just because I think the Boom Billies were kind of annoying. I just don't think it's something a lot of people like dealing with. So, the Chapter 5, Season 4, with the actual season itself. We're going to talk about Emma Frost first. So, Emma Frost spawns at the raft, and she is arguably one of the best bosses ever, as she has a Mythic Striker Burst Assault Rifle and a Reveal Medallion, which was the Scam Medallion, as one of the best medallions of all time. Mysterio spawns at Doomsday, and he has the Mythic Sovereign Shotgun and the Stealth Medallion, which was really, really overlooked and no one ever went for it, and people dropped it instead of actually taking it because it was so bad. Now, Doombot always spawns at Doom's Domain, at Castle Doom, and he drops 3 things actually. He drops a Siphon Medallion, he drops the Arcane Gauntlets, and he drops a mythic version of the Monarch Pistol, which the Monarch Pistol is pretty solid overall. Now, where do I rank these 3 bosses? I would say Emma Frost, by far, might be the highest S tier goated character. I'm sorry, I gotta move this guy down a little bit. I gotta move this guy down. This is too big of a meme. But she is arguably the best AR ever. And definitely the best medallion ever. One of the most useful utility items ever. So you kill her and you get both of those. It's a win-win. And then you have Mysterio's shotgun, which Mysterio has a solid shotgun, but the scan, his medallion was so bad to the point where people were dropping it. The only time it was actually useful was in tournaments when you could just crouch and walk around and no one would shoot at you, because it would only make sense if you played tournaments, and otherwise it's useless. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to go based off the medallion here. Him as a kid, I expected so much more from Mysterio. They could have done so many better things with it. Like making clones. A clone medallion instead of a crouching, cloaking medallion for some unknown reason. Next up, we had Doombot. Doombot was pretty solid. I'm going to say Doombot is B tier, just because I like the Sovereign Shotgun. I really liked it. I like the gauntlets too. And the Siphon Medallions are always my favorite. So, in the worst season of all time. First, we're going to talk about the Machinist, as she spawns at Redline Rig, which was my favorite actually POI to land at, and one of my favorite POIs in Chapter 4 to land at, and Chapter 5 to land at. But she either spawns there or she's a roaming throughout the map, just driving in a car, and she has her combat assault rifle and a medallion that gives you passively 75 shield, which is pretty solid. Then you have Megalodon, which Megalodon has his Nitro Fist, his Combat Shotgun, and his Medallion, which allows you to have almost infinite sprint and Nitro to run through walls, which I think is so OP. And then lastly, you have Ringmaster Scarr, which she basically spawns at the Nitrodome, and she drops the Boom Bolt, and she drops her Medallion, which gives you infinite ammo on any weapon in your inventory, which these two are supposed to go hand in hand together. I have to be honest, it is so hard not to put these all in useless because that's literally what they are to me. But I'm gonna be honest, I really like the Machinist. I thought she was pretty solid, actually, as a character itself. Take away from the actual season, the Machinist was probably the best bot, as she's the most balanced, which I didn't think her Medallion was too OP or anything. Or her weapon. Her weapon was pretty good. So I'm going to put her at B tier. Megalodon. If I could have a 2 OP, I should have made a 2 OP one. Can I add extras? And I think the person that gets Doctor Doom deserves to win the game anyways. Anyways, moving back to Ringmaster Scarr. She pretty trash overall, actually. I just thought she was. I'm gonna say she was too OP. Also, her crossbow is just way too annoying. Like, you could just spam it, spam. If you had the infinite ammo medallion, you could run double crossbow, and it was kind of stupid to experience. Season 2, I'm gonna start out actually talking about Cerberus, and he spawns at Grim Gate in one of the best bosses and medallions of all time, as he has the Gatekeeper Shotgun and his aspect of agility, which allows you to passively get 3 dashes over time and dash around the map, and it's really OP. Then you have Ares, which he is located at Brawler's Battleground, which can be killed upon attacking him and challenging him by pulling down his altar. That is actually the same for all these characters. Hades, when you kill Hades, he gives you a Siphon Medallion as Harbinger SMG. And then Zeus, lastly, drops 3 things. He drops his DMR, which was pretty trash, and he drops his Thunderbolts, and then he drops Aspect of Agility. Aspect of Speed, sorry, which allows you to sprint and jump higher. Starting with Zeus, Zeus's Medallion and DMR were not all that useful. He's not exactly useless, but he's pretty close. I'm going to put him in D tier because Zeus was pretty bad, I'm going to be honest. And his Thunderbolts were low to OP. Plus, when you challenge Zeus, it took so long to kill him too as a boss. It was just such a pain to try to kill him. Ares, useless. Probably one of the worst ones we've had yet. His AR was pretty good, but his Medallion did absolutely nothing, as it only upped your damage on all your weapons by like 2, and it didn't do very much. Cerberus, very close behind Emma Frost. You could argue he belongs in front of Emma Frost. Cerberus was very OP with his shotgun, which is one of the best shotguns of all time. That's why you can make an argument. These two could go either way. So whether you like this one better or this one better, these two could go either way. Toggled the two together. But I don't know, man. It's hard to choose between them. Now Hades belongs kind of down here also. I'm gonna put him at C tier. It's because I did like his Siphon Medallion, but his Harbinger SMG wasn't really that useful, and I didn't really take it very much, and I kind of dropped it when I was given the opportunity to take something else. Chapter 5, Season 1, the beginning of the Medallion era, where all these medallions actually, with all the bosses in this game, in this season, were too OP in the beginning, so they had to be nerfed, and this was the start of all medallions and special abilities. But in this one, we have Oscar, we have Nisha, we have Valeria, we have Montague, and we have Peter Griffen as all the bosses in this season. As Peter Griffen drops his special shotgun with a scope on it, and he drops his own medallion. With Valeria, she drops an SMG, which is pretty solid. It also has a scope on it. Montague has a special AK kind of that he drops. He calls him Montague's assault rifle, but it's basically just an AK. But he has a medallion that can also be stacked as well. Nisha, she drops her special assault rifle, and she lands at. She can acquire her by landing at fencing, and you can get her Nisha's assault rifle, which was a pretty solid weapon overall. Now Oscar had one of the best shotguns of the chapter. Was Oscar's Frenzy Out shotgun, one of my favorite weapons of the entire chapter, as it was basically a drum shotgun, but it was more powerful. And all these guys were too OP because of their medallions, but because they all have the same medallion, I'm going to rank them based off their weapons as a whole. Now, Peter Griffen shotgun was pretty good. I liked it. But I'm gonna give it like a mid C tier. I thought it was a pretty solid weapon as a whole. And Peter Griffen is a little too much health, which is another reason why I'm rating him a little lower. Nisha, very solid, one of the best bosses and best weapons by far in the entire chapter. Now Oscar's Frenzy Out shotgun, I could put him at S tier. I might. Oscar is high A tier. He's not S tier. S tier is reserved for goated status, okay? Reserved. Now Montague, I'm not the biggest fan of Montague's AR, I'm gonna be honest, and a lot of people weren't. But some people liked it. I'm gonna give it a similar spot to Peter Griffen, give it a little C tier. And then Valeria, actually you could say her weapon was useless because a lot of people dropped it. There were a lot of times I went to Reckless Airways, and she was just standing there. No one challenged her ever. No one landed on her. I'm gonna be honest. She's kind of in the D tier useless category because not a lot of people went. I'm gonna put her in useless. Probably high useless though. Okay, swap these around a little bit. All right. Alright, okay. And that's kind of the list for Chapter 5. Alright, we are moving into Last Resort, which was a special season where they had vaults to it was kind of a time machine season a little bit. It's kind of special in its own way. But we had special bosses in this season, which were Kado Thorne, which is this guy right here, Kado Thorne, as he spawns at Eclipse's state and can be challenged for his weapon, his keycard, and his weapon of choice was a burst SMG. And then you had two dealers, which were the diamond dealers, which spawns at Sanguine Suites, you can fight him for his keycard and his DMR, and you can also get the vaults with that. And then the heart dealer is just the same thing as the diamonds dealer, except he drops his special Mythic Hearts Havoc. Where do I rank these guys? So I could not actually find an image of a diamonds dealer, but diamonds dealer is blue. I would put the diamonds dealer these two dealers in B tier, because they give you a whole vault with mythics and stuff in it. Now I'm not gonna lie, Kado Thorne is like a really cool skin to have. I'm gonna put him at low A tier, like behind Nisha, is where he belongs. Now Chapter 4 Season 3 did not have a lot of bosses, but it did have a lot of mythics with the main bosses of Chapter 5 Season 2 and Season 3 were high card bosses, which were basically the same thing as these bosses. So I would say all the high card bosses go in like D tier because they were just like very similar to. They just had smaller vaults and didn't have as good loot. We're moving into Chapter 4 Season 1. There was one boss from this chapter which is the Ageless Champion. As he is located in the Citadel, he drops the Mythic Hammer, which the hammers are known to a lot as one of the best, I guess the best rotation item ever. One of the most fun, probably I had the most fun with the hammer. I had a lot of fun with my friends using the hammer, flying around with it. It was such a good competitive item too. There were so many positives with it. But I'm going to give the Ageless Champion a pretty good rating because of that. I'm going to be honest, the Ageless Champion also belongs in A tier. Alright, next up we have the Herald, and she spawns at Herald's Sanctum, and you can challenge her for her Mythic, which is a unique Mythic, which was a Mythic Herald's Burst Assault Rifle, pretty much, which I don't remember if she drops anything else. I think this was the only thing she dropped, honestly, when you kill her, but I'm going to give her a pretty good rating. Thermal is pretty, it's kind of a mill. I'm going to give her a C tier, pretty solid high C tier overall. Get into chapter 3 season 2, we're getting into areas where people actually forgot some of these bosses and who they were. So first we're going to talk about Hunt Master Saber, which he was a special boss spawn that spawned over above the Daily Bugle, which basically he has a special thermal assault rifle, which you could actually get later on in the game. And then another one was Gunnar, and Gunnar can be challenged over at Command Cavern, which he drops a Mythic Stinger SMG when you kill him, which was still late in the game later actually. And then lastly was Slone, which she was one of the most popular bosses of the entire chapter, as she spawns at the fortress, and you could get her Striker Burst AR, which was a scoped Striker Burst, which was really, really good. Now, where would I rank Huntmaster Saber? I'm going to be honest, the Thermal Assault Rifle, Thermal Assault Rifle is it's okay, but I'm going to put it at B tier, very low B tier, behind. All right, next up we have Gunnar. And Gunnar, with being challenged at Command Cavern, was a very unique boss, as you unlock his Stinger, which the Stinger SMG is so trash, I'm not going to lie. It's to the point it's almost useless. The only reason why it's not useless because he gives you a vault. So I'm going to give him D tier. Now Slone, her Striker Burst AR, so good. She is high B tier. If there's a level between A and B, she is there. She is like right in between A and B. It's really high B, low A tier. All right. Next up we have the Foundation, which the Foundation introduced scoped weapons, scoped assault rifles into the actual game. This was the beginning of what we know now with scoped weapons in chapter 5 and 6. As people came up with creative ways to kill them, as you could build up really, really high and then use a fishing rod or a harpoon gun to shoot them up. But basically you challenge him at the Sanctuary for his loot, and he drops his Mythic, the Foundation's MK7 assault rifle, which, if people remember this weapon, at the time was so OP, one of the best weapons of all time in Fortnite, making this guy S tier. This is a boss you probably actually forgot about, which was Zyg. Zyg was a boss because you remember this, where if you get this little choppy guy and you put him on your head, he actually takes away some of your HP, but he gives you like a special jumping ability where he allows you to jump higher when you are building and stuff. Which was pretty unique. I liked it. It was a cool idea. Take a little of your HP for a special ability. But a lot of people forget what Zyg actually dropped. And he dropped the first of all, if you don't know where this is kind of like outside of Slurpy Swamp a little bit pretty close to it. But Zyg dropped a ray gun, which when you killed him, he gave you a ray gun, which the ray gun is so trash. One of the worst mythics in Fortnite. Like, that weapon is so bad. It's unbelievable how bad it is. I mean, seriously. That's why Zyg is one of the worst bosses of all time. He belongs on useless. Boss I actually forgot about is Darth Vader. And Darth Vader has been in the game a couple of times. He was in the game actually in Chapter 5, but there was another time in Chapter 3. He was in the game in Chapter 4. He was in the game with Star Wars and stuff. But Darth Vader has spawns, at least in Chapter 5, he spawned on a special island, and you could get him by challenging him. And his special weapons is his lightsaber, which that's kind of really all there is to it, and his force abilities, which was, there isn't a lot in Darth Vader, although his force abilities were in the later chapters, but early on he didn't really have a lot of abilities. But this was a boss I forgot to talk about. As Darth Vader, my opinion, I really like those swords. I think Darth Vader is a solid A. I'm going to put him in middle A. Alright, next up we are getting into a season that people didn't particularly like, which was Chapter 2, Season 6. And there was really only one new boss in this entire chapter, which was the Spire Assassin. Which, when you killed her, she dropped the Prime Shotgun, which I don't know if... The Prime Shotgun was special in its own way, where it did a lot of damage, but had a slow reload time. Alright, so starting off with Chapter 2, Season 5. First we're going to talk about Predator, which she's hard to kill because she just teleports and she's hard to see and she turns invisible with her cloaking ability. But once you kill her, she drops a cloaking device which allows you to, I guess, cloak, pretty much. That's all there really is to it. Alright, next up, Mandalorian has a handful of weapons that he drops when you eliminate him. Sometimes he can randomly spawn near colossal crops in the different areas around the map, in the area of sand dunes. But most of all, he drops a sniper and a jetpack. I am sorry, I did not show you. So I put Mandalorian here, and then I put Predator here. Yeah, when you killed Wolverine, he gave you his claws, and his claws are pretty solid overall, and pretty fun to use. And then next up we got Iron Man. Iron Man has multiple things. He drops a key card because he's a vault also. He drops his repulsor gauntlets, which are really good, and they were actually brought back in the later chapter. And then he has his unibeam, which shoots a gigantic like beam just super far away, and it goes a long ways. Next up we got Doom. Now Doom actually has his own gauntlets and his keycard. Along with that, he is a mystic bomb like Dr. Doom from earlier. And his abilities are so overpowered, and I can't believe they brought him back. Now when I cover these three as a whole, actually Doom I already put in, but Doom goes along with the other Doom, Doombot, because Doombot has the same abilities pretty much. But Wolverine, very solid ability. I'm going to put him at B tier. So I'm trying to be Iron Man, very high A tier. Not quite S tier, but very, very high A tier. Alright, next up we're moving into Chapter Season 3, one of my favorite seasons of all time. And we're going to be covering, first we're going to talk about actually Jules with her. When you kill her, she drops her special drum gun and her grappler. This allows you, of course, to redeploy when you use it. When you grapple onto something, you can redeploy and do a special kind of hawk animation, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have Kit, and Kit can be challenged for his loot at his own POI in Caddy Corner, as he drops his own shotgun and the charged shotgun, along with the key card for his special vault at his POI. Lastly, we have Ocean, and she is a pain to find because she spawns at multiple different locations around the Fortilla. But when you kill her, she drops a mythic burst assault rifle like the Sky assault rifle, but it was the first mythic burst one ever put into the game. Along with that, she has an endless chug jug, infinite chug jug that can be used over and over again. That takes, I think it was 60 seconds to recharge after use. So that's pretty solid. And then she has her own key card for her own vault. Alright, so starting with Ocean, I'm going to put Ocean because her weapon was so good. And I love the endless chug jug, and I used it in Chapter 3, Season 4 a lot. I think she is an A tier. She's a very solid boss. I think she goes behind Ageless Champion. Very solid boss. Kits. This might be a little biased here, but I love the charged shotgun. It's one of my favorite weapons of all time. I also love the shockwave launcher. Might be a little biased here, but I think it's A tier. Now Jules, let's be honest here. Her grappler was really, really good, but Jules is just the knockoff drum gun of Midas' drum gun. It's disrespectful to Midas. For that, I'm putting it in useless. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to put it in C tier. Yeah, it belongs in C tier. Alright, last up, we are moving on to Chapter 2, Season 2, and we're starting off with Skye, which was one of the best bosses of all time, in my opinion. As when you eliminate her at the shark, because she appears at the shark constantly every single game, you will get her mythic Scarr and her mythic grappler. This is a boss that I wish I could just go back to fighting the regular one, not Ice Spice. Just go back to fighting Skye, because Skye is one of my favorite skins and characters of all time, as she drops a grappler and a Scarr, and along with that she also drops her. Alright, next up we have Deadpool's yacht. This was after Masticles moved away from the yacht. He used to be on the yacht, but then he got kicked out by Deadpool, if people forgot. Now Deadpool, I'm not going to lie, Deadpool is a cool character, but his weapon that he drops is so useless. I mean, I think it gave you HP for damage. It's like 15 HP back for damage that you do. The dualies, I just think the dualies were so bad and no one else carried them. Hence why people just dropped them instead of carrying them. But the dual hand cannons just were not good. I know people also have issues where they struggle fighting Bruce because Bruce does a ton of damage. But yeah, Brutus was a fun boss to kill overall. It was fun carrying Brutus's weapons. Alright. This was after this was after Meowsticles moved. Meowsticles used to be at the POI. Now he's crying. Oh my gosh, it's so sad. But Meowsticles drops his pew pew rifle and his key card, which he drops a key card here anyways after, and it could still be used at the vault, which is kind of funny. But the next up we have the agency with Midas. And we all know Midas. He spawns with the Midas's drum gun and his own special key card that he has. So upon eliminating him, he gives you both, and one of the best weapons of all time, I would say. Next one is Tina, and Tina is annoying because she can sometimes spawn in the island. If you remember this, she had more than one spawn point. Sometimes she would spawn on the rig, and other times she would spawn on the island. So you have to look for her at certain times because she would sometimes spawn in different areas, and you didn't know where she was. So you had to go out and search for her. If you didn't know the spawn points, then it'd be hard to find Tina. But Tina's boom bow was so bad. Like, back in the day, everyone dropped it. No one carried it. Alright. Deadpool was actually useless. He's pretty high useless because he's a cool skin. That's the only reason why I can't put him any higher. I'm going to be honest. Midas belongs on the 2 OP list. He's 2 OP. No, I'm just kidding. Midas, S tier. Midas is S tier behind Cerberus, and it is very clear that he. Now, this is not recency bias. I honestly think. Well, we'll see where I put the other two, but. Brutus also belongs in S tier. Now, this is not going to be a season 2 bias list. These are legitimately the best. Now, okay. Tina is the worst. Let's just put Tina at the very end. All right, let's just put her at the very end and call it quits. Now, Meowsticle's very, very solid. I'm going to put him kind of in the same area where I put Meowdas because he's kind of the same person. But Sky, also S tier. Let's see if I can make any changes or move anybody up. I think Vader could be moved to S tier. I'm going to move Vader up. Then Iron Man could be S tier also, but I will not put him S tier. Ageless Champion, I'm moving you up. Okay. I think this is my final list. Tell me what you all think in the comments. But thank you all for watching. If you're still with me after this long video, for me it says I've been filming this for over an hour and a half. For you it's going to be like 30 to 45 minutes. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.